Hello and welcome to another Digital Foundry live stream. I'm here once again on this lovely Friday night, coming to you live from Germany. And I am joined, usually, as always, by Audi Surly up there.
How's it going, John?
Not too bad, not too bad, good sir.
Is this our first stream since I actually joined the company?
It might be, because we haven't, the last one we did was the Turok one with Alex, and then it's been a little bit since then, so it's good to have you on here in an official capacity.
I have to be here now, so...
Exactly, so...
This is my shackles.
So yeah, and then we're also joined by Ben Jones here from Koch Media.
Howdy.
So
How's
Ben,
it going?
Ben,
Really good, really good. Really great to speak to you guys.
yeah, it's good to have you here, even with the latency inherent in doing this. It should still be fun. So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
but you wanted to come on and just kind of hang out and talk about Capcom games, and also, this was kind of an idea. Just Audi and I reviewed this stick. I guess when was it? It was like
2 years ago.
It's been a while, actually. It's a fun little thing, and but we had a lot of not a lot, but we had some complaints in that original review, and I have to admit, you guys actually went back and fixed all of them, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we often cover patched games, but we never really had a chance to look at patched hardware. So it's kind of fun just to come in here, and I thought it would be fun to play some Capcom games. Like, I'm going to kick off with Alien vs. Predator. So, and as usual, I have the volume cranked up on the mic and such. I hope it's loud enough. But yeah, so let's just get into this.
Need to scream.
All right, so we're starting with some AVP. So let's do this.
John, and Ben, for that matter, this would be the first time I ever heard of a mini device being updated. No.
I mean, at least from my perspective, we've covered a bunch of these things before. Just, it's interesting. People are curious, and I don't think any of them are really designed to be updated. And like the Nintendo ones have been traditionally pretty good. The Sega one was solid enough. The PlayStation Mini was pretty bad, and it definitely relied on jailbreaking to become something decent, because what's included in the software is not good. And then this is pretty good. And 1080p output, which is unusual for these SoC-based things, and some solid games in here. But, this is the latest version, which has a ton of underneath the hood changes and user-facing features as well. So you guys want to talk about that a little bit while I jump into AVP here?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, Ben. AVP has always been like really requested when it comes to Capcom stuff, but how hard was it to license the AVP brand for this device?
Yeah, that's a curious one. Easy?
It's pretty easy.
Oh.
When we were drawing up the list of games, we were just going through this process and trying to think of a varied range to give. So I think it was 4 head-to-head fighters, 4 side-scrolling beat-em-ups, 4 shoot-em-ups, 2 of them vertical, 2 of them side-scrolling, a puzzler, and a sports game. And is that 16? I think that's 16. And obviously, when you're going through what should be in those categories, you need to just think about what's recognizable, what's actually a good game that may have not been big very much or had a low print run.
Oh, yeah.
I had a tortuous time playing the CPS 1 and 2 catalog for months on end.
Torturous?
What to put on it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, it was always terrible, John. It was so painful. And the one thing I got out of it, that there is not a stinker in that catalogue. It kind of makes sense, true, because Capcom were making very expensive arcade machines. The software had to be top notch, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I think when we got to thinking about the side-scrolling beat 'em ups, I obviously had Final Fight. I know it's been repressed so many times.
Yeah.
But the logo, the game itself, the music, everything about it, I just thought, yeah, we've got to have this. And then AVP was always in the mix, but I was always very conscious about additional third-party licenses. They're really painful.
They often
I
are,
knew
yeah.
I knew we needed a couple of standout titles, and then obviously AVP. Not only is it a great game, it's a great license, and then it had the added bonus of never being released at home.
Which is a shame. So it's not my favorite of Capcom's brawlers, but it's solid, and it feels like it could have been nice on like the Sega Saturn or something. 'Cause they got a lot of games in there, and even PlayStation had some. Like Captain Commando got a PlayStation release pretty late for that system, but you know, a lot of these did not get home ports.
Yeah, I mean,
actually, you know what? Before you continue, one of the things I guess I didn't realize that I found interesting when you were talking about this thing was just like I guess the design process that you went through, because you're basically like just a couple dudes that wanted to do kind of an arcade stick thing. So it's a little different than like a big company saying, "Hey, let's do a product like this." It was just something that you were kind of passionate about, and maybe it's kind of cool to hear some of those details.
Oh, well, it's a good story. I'm lucky enough to be the business development manager at Koch, and lots of things come across the table. It can be internet-based things, but it can be physical accessories and machines and things that we build. The Far East, been doing it for 13 years. We were lucky enough to partner with Retro Games Limited on the C64 Mini.
Oh yeah.
And I vividly remember being in a very dusty factory in Shenzhen and talking about everything. We were building the initial batch of C64 Minis, and SNES had been announced, and this area was really taking off. So we sat there. The factory that we used, the guy is a real retro collector, and he brought out all these old Dreamcasts and so many things we had on the table. I was like, we're never going to do Nintendo, very unlikely to do Sega. PC Engine was interesting, and then
Konami ended up doing that.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lovely looking device. And Pandora boxes, I think they had a Pandora box there, and I was just thinking to myself, well, Capcom never had a machine, and we just started to fork it out, and I got back to the UK, and we thought, yeah, an arcade machine sounds good. You know, I have a lot of very, very fond memories growing up of playing on arcades, and I just thought, yeah, this makes sense, because at that time there wasn't that much arcade talk. I know there was obviously the scene of Retro Arch and all that, but there was nothing really ever official. And
yeah,
I remember sitting at my desk. I'm not a Photoshop guy. I have Photoshop elements, and I looked at the Capcom logo and I thought, well, what can we do with this? I know they had hardware like the Mini Q and that, but I just thought this is maybe not strong enough. And I remember having a couple of layers on Photoshop. One of them was the Capcom logo, the other one was a Pandora box, and I put one on top of the other. And I added some Gaussian blur, which I made solid, and I thought, it fits. It fits. It's extreme. It fits. And when you're pitching, sometimes your ideas have to be rather extreme and not vanilla, because it just gets people's attention. And
oh yeah, for sure. It's a weird design. It looks kind of cool in person, I have to say, but it is like it's pretty unusual, to say the least. but it works.
Yeah, I mean, I always had dreams afterwards of follow-up machines. Like once did do a prototype of a Capcom Power Stick Fighter, one player. But these things just you do prototypes and they don't just come to fruition. So it was always in my mind, but I thought, let's make a big splash with this Capcom logo.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the rest is history. The design, design process was as simple as that, and then we just had a graphic designer and a 3D modeler start making it up. There's an interesting story where we had to make a prototype and rush it to the European office of Capcom because the bigwigs were there and they were going to approve it. I had to really rush get this prototype. I think we 3D printed it, all the parts. The original prototype did not have the buttons painted. I mean, obviously, it's just insane to paint buttons. I mean, there are 16 buttons, 32 pieces of plastic.
See, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That's like, that's crazy.
With two color prints on them, 32 print processes. It's insane. We'll never do it again. The reason why I had to do it is because I was live. I can remember being live on the phone to my contact at Capcom, and he was saying, "We're in the office. They're looking at it." So what they were looking at was what you see today. That the single player buttons were blue, the second player buttons were yellow, and I've worked quite hard on this project, and I was very passionate about it. We worked on it for 3 to 6 months at this point, and this was crunch time. This was a yes or no from Capcom. I remember being totally crushed because they rejected it.
Oh.
And they rejected it, but they left me a lifeline. They said, the reason that it's rejected is that you are obscuring the Capcom logo, and that is against our artwork.
Okay, so that's interesting. And so the reason it has the Capcom logo across the buttons is really just down to Capcom not wanting their logo obscured.
I mean, it looks much better like this. But obviously, I'm always thinking about the manufacture process and the cost of goods.
Yeah, I can imagine that added a lot.
It would be insane to print this. Can we get a good print? How do we print around the edges? How do we ensure that the paint doesn't come off in two weeks? I just knew it'd be a nightmare, but because they said that, we thought of several ways to do it. But in the end, it is a traditional pad print with a clear lacquer over the top. Very time-consuming. On the second or third retry, with the buttons painted, it turned around to be a yes. So it was worth persevering with, and that's what you go through when you.
So I mean, and this kind of stuff I think is interesting because obviously the design is it's divisive. Some people like it, some don't. But I think it's cool to hear the insight behind that stuff, and that's something that you don't always get to hear. So I like that. But before we continue, though, I think there is a super chat in there.
Super chat. Yeah, so from Solid Crusader 89 is, hey there, I have a quick question about sound setup for gaming. What is your recommendation for better sound experience? A 3D audio headset or a soundbar, subwoofer, and 2 rear speakers? Does it make a difference?
I mean, personally, for me, I'm running an Dolby Atmos setup, or Atmos setup, and I kind of prefer using big speakers over headphones. But sound bars, I'm not hugely into. I mean, there can be some pretty good ones, but in that case, a good pair of headphones might actually be the superior option. So it really just comes down to which ones you're talking about. Whether it's, if you use cheap speakers, some decent headphones are going to sound a lot better. But you know, if you have a really nice sound setup versus speakers, really nice sound setup versus headphones, you might actually still prefer the speakers. But I don't know, it seems to be split. I hear a lot of people that only want to play with headphones and others that really only want to play in a sound system. So it kind of varies. But for me, I'm all about that 7.1/Atmos kind of setup. So
there's another super chat from David asking, is Ben who we should ask about the Jaguar Mini? I guess he's talking about the Atari Jaguar.
Oh,
Ben,
dude,
are you going to be making an Atari Jaguar Mini anytime soon?
We always talk about things like this, but is that an Atari property? You've always got to consider how difficult things are. Who are the current owners? There'll be a lot of research for Atari. That they're a strong and active brand at the minute. They've just released that. What was it called?
Oh,
they got kind of a retro Linux type device.
They got the VCS thing that they're bringing back. Yeah, that thing is. But speaking of Jaguar, I gotta hold up. I just finally received this today. I ordered this a while ago. Actually, it's the Jaguar game drive. It's basically a flash drive for playing Jaguar games. I have a decent number of games for the Jag, but not nearly all of them, and this is a good way to access it. I originally ordered one of these back at Gamescom, but there were some manufacturing production issues that it's a crazy situation, but needless to say, they delivered. So this is cool.
They can even play a Jaguar CD.
So we can finally play all those
Highlander.
Yeah, Highlander. Was there VidGrid on there? Myst.
What's your favorite Highlander movie, John?
I don't know.
Well, you should just say one. So there's a super chat.
I've never seen any other ones except for one, so I don't know.
Well, consider yourself lucky, because that's it doesn't get much better.
Oh well, that's good.
Bluto is saying 2.0. Yeah, 2.0 indeed.
I think, is that the software of the Capcom Home Arcade 2.0?
Maybe. Is
there a planned 2.0? Which version are we at right now anyway on Capcom?
Yeah, this is the latest version.
1.6. Yeah.
I could say first of all the Wi-Fi stuff, that's all fixed. The scaling options are better. They actually have a 1-to-1 pixel mode now. The main UI, I'm gonna pop back to that. We'll switch games. The UI is now actually.
Remember that it didn't do that. It rebooted.
Oh, that's another good point.
Yeah, it rebooted the whole thing, which was one of the.
When you quit the game and had to reboot the whole thing, and this menu ran at like 15 frames per second.
John, please, you're killing me.
That was the worst part of this thing, man. The original UI. It's
know,
good now, but
should have been like that at launch. Should have been like that at launch. Interestingly, that old reboot thing wasn't a reboot. It was a fake reboot. So the machine wasn't resetting itself. We faked it because I think it took so long to come out of emulation, start up RetroArch, and then go into the menu. So we faked it.
That's actually an important thing to note. Is like you guys actually. So the original stick did use RetroArch, but it does not use RetroArch anymore. That's right, isn't it? That's been ripped out. That's cool.
That middle wear out. It's nothing. Obviously, a stellar program, RetroArch, but for us,
it is good. It is good. RetroArch is very, very good. It's not to knock that, but
no, not at all. We needed to have more direct access over things and pipe things in directly because we just couldn't get things working. It's a mix. It's not RetroArch. It's the hardware running it. It's very difficult hardware to work with these all-in ARM chips. There's no documentation. There's no.
That's the stuff that's pretty much in the other mini consoles as well. So But except the
Well,
PlayStation Mini uses a more powerful one, but
Yeah.
the Nintendo ones, I think the Sega ones are all similar kind of spec, and they're actually limited to 720p output as well.
I mean, I do, John. I always appreciate you mentioning that because nobody else mentions it, and it's very important to me. It makes a difference. An
It does.
80p is better than 720p. It's crisper. It's sharper.
So
it's just about it.
that's the thing that's interesting is that, you know, technically speaking, 720p, a direct image from that should look totally sharp. The problem actually lies with the televisions themselves and the way most TVs upscale 720p. Like a 4K screen should do like a nearest neighbor scale on that, and it would look amazing, but they don't. It's just blurry. They heavily filter the image, so you really lose a lot of that pixel clarity. 1080p, I find, especially on like my LG OLED, is and a lot of the other ones I've tested, 1080p scaling is much cleaner. So it makes a better canvas. Obviously, I would prefer full 4K. You could do a lot, but I understand there's a lot of issues in the background with doing 4K on like smaller, low-powered devices right now. So it's.
I've got a little story on that one. Is that when we were testing right at the beginning, the basic fundamental PCB is its design is based on an Orange Pi PC design. In development, we were using these boards all the time, and when we were first getting to grips with HDMI, EDIDs, the handshake,
right.
I think some of the first ones we didn't force resolution. So resolution was designated by the TV that you plugged in. I test everything on a big 4K TV, and I plugged it in, and it was just going. We were just booting up something like Street Fighter 2, and this is very slow.
It was actually booting up in 4K mode.
It could do it, but 10 frames a second, John.
Oh, it was too slow.
But the funniest thing about it was, I just sat there and I was just marveling at it, thinking, God, this little thing. And then I know you two know this smell of burning plastic and silicon.
Wait, what?
You
overheated it?
I watched this Orange Pi PC die, like short circuit. Its Ethernet light started to blink very slowly.
No way.
It just died. So, I mean, I don't know now whether all winner chips, they're always capable of 4K. I don't know whether they've got the grunts to do it.
By the way, I saw somebody mention in there, and this is actually true. Like, we don't think about so-called 720p TVs anymore but this is something I always complained about, is most flat panels, pretty much all of them, there were no 720p TVs. They were 768p panels, and they used I think this was down to something to do with overscan or something, but the pixel resolution selected was not great. It was never a perfect match, so you always got scaling unless you used a DLP. DLPs, which were rear projection or front projection, I guess, depending. Those actually did often have like a true 1280 with 720p image, but so it's either a CRT or a DLP for an actual 720p display.
DLP was like a cinema, though, wasn't it? Like a projector that would then mirror the image.
So
I remember them big old things. They were the first big TVs going, weren't they?
Yeah, the TVs used a single color wheel, and the ones in the cinemas actually used 3, and that's how they avoided the rainbow artifacts, which were quite visible on DLP. Like, I like DLPs, but that was always something I noticed. The rainbowing. Oh,
so we have a super chat from Sandy B saying, would you rather have a pet cat called Ledbetter that couldn't do much apart from say Ledbetter and carry you shopping, or a magic spoon that always had whatever food you felt like eating on it? Is this some reference to Monster Hunter, or
I think my Monster Hunter video.
Something?
I named my Palico Ledbetter.
That's right.
It was awesome. So wait, what was the question again? Let's see here.
Well, would you rather have a pet cat called Ledbetter that couldn't do much apart from, say, Ledbetter?
Or a magic spoon that always had whatever food you felt like eating on it? I I'd rather have the magic spoon, because like
Yeah, because I wouldn't. I already have Rich in real life, who can't
Exactly.
say much else but let better, and then carry my stuff. So.
Oh. Oh my gosh, this week's episode of DF Direct, man. It'll go up soon.
Yes, it will be up soon, and it was magic. It was magic.
It was fantastic.
I was actually awake for that, whereas today I'm a little bit tired, as maybe people can notice, but I will shape up and sober up as we go along.
That's quite alright. So, I'm playing with this nice, as usual, I've got the capture card input lag, so the game feels very mushy. But that's not the fault of the hardware here, it's just...
I wanted to ask Ben something that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, but you talked about the fact that licensing AVP wasn't that difficult, but people, and I saw some in the chat already, were asking about dinosaurs and Cadillacs. Was that ever planned,
Cadillacs and
or...
dinosaurs? Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say dinosaurs and Cadillacs?
Yes, you did.
I'm still very tired.
It's okay.
We didn't finish on AVP. I said it was easy.
Go ahead.
It was actually my contact at Capcom that was in the licensing division that was really hot on it. I think he had fond childhood memories of it, and so couple that with obviously its strength, and it had never been released. It's one of those times where you send an email, and 9 times out of 10 you don't even get a response. You get a response. Actually, the guy's interested. It was Fox at the time. Now it'll be Disney.
Oh, and, yeah.
These things are drawn out, but they have to be with big companies like Fox. But if the intention of both parties is just to release a video game, a 25-year-old video game, a system that they would say, "Oh, it looks pretty cool," you can get it through. But then on the flip side of that, that's Fox. That's Aliens versus Predator, massive brand. Of course, I looked at Cadillacs versus Dinosaurs. That first stage music and that second stage music.
Dude,
the
the
way
music...
it's played. Come on, guys.
I love that game, and yeah, I've been playing that a lot recently on the Mister actually, and we'll have to talk about FPGA shortly, but for now,
Go on.
Yeah.
I contacted Mark Schultz. He's the guy that draws the cartoons. I don't know whether he still draws Cadillacs versus Dinosaurs, but he did do quite a lot of them back then. Responded, nice guy, and not interested.
Just
You never know the depth of that. Is the depth that it was even his license? He obviously had to have some agreement with General Motors or Chevrolet because of the Cadillac's name.
That's true.
We're going into 4 companies now that need to do a licensing agreement, and one of them's a ginormous American car company. I do this kind of thing relatively often. There's some person in a licensing division, never even heard of this stuff, never heard of nothing. They just go, yeah, $100,000. Say,
yeah.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a failure of getting a title due to licensing can be any reason.
Exactly.
But then sometimes it can happen. I mean, I did approach him again. He just went, "It's a no, Ben." This is like, what can I do? Sometimes there's dead ends.
Yeah.
You just got to give up. It's very sad. And there's loads of those games that we looked at.
What should we learn?
But sometimes they just don't happen. You
Anyway,
just gotta move on.
We should probably tackle some super chats.
Let's go to super chats. Yeah. So David says excited for #Will Judd review of LG's OLED Evo. I guess the newly freed Will Judd.
Well, I wonder if he'll review that. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if he's scheduled to do that, but yeah, I mean, if Will is listening, I'm sure he can answer that in the chat himself. And then Epic War, a great band, by the way.
Oh yeah.
If you had to pick one console only to have this generation, would you pick PS5 or Series X? Ooh, that's bait.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those questions you can't even really answer right now because like we don't know. It's too early.
We don't have the library for it. So.
I'll put it. I could say this: at the current time, if I had neither, I would obviously go for the PS5 because it actually has more games that I actually wanted to play, like Demon Souls, for instance, which is just phenomenal. But that's just the current situation. So, you know. But fortunately, I don't have to decide. I can have them all, which is what I choose to do.
You know what the real answer is anyway.
Mega Drive?
CDI.
Oh, I was gonna say Mega Drive. I mean, I'll tell you what. Like, if somebody were to like, if somebody in here had like a copy of like Battlemania 2 on the Mega Drive right now, I would totally give you my PS5 and some games with it. So,
yeah, well, you heard it here, folks.
So
you're
yeah,
up for a trade of Battlemania 2, like Denjo, then you can go to John and get a PS5.
Same with Xbox. You know, I don't. It's neither. I say I'll give a next gen console for that game.
Yeah.
Although that probably would cause problems because I need those to work. So.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you can borrow mine.
There you go. No, they're cool though. I like them both.
In general, I just like consoles. I don't like picking.
Yeah, exactly. We don't pick. It's just try to own them all.
There is no one wins if you just pick.
I mean, guys, I just spent like I spent like a couple $100 or something on the Jaguar game drive, guys. Come on now. Who does that?
Oh, we had this Mega Drive versus SNES. It will never end. People
Yeah,
want to pick a side.
but they're both.
I had both.
They're both great.
Oh,
Yeah.
£100, whatever it was back then. Anyway, get 'em all.
Although, look, I was looking at my game manager today because I was scanning in some stuff, and I realized my Mega Drive collection is the most valuable collection that I have by far.
Oh, I would think so.
Certainly more than Super NES and Super Famicom.
Yeah. You have some pretty heavy hitters on the Mega Drive, so at this point.
I love that system though. That's probably
so
emotionally.
I remember.
Oh, hold on, another super chat.
Yeah.
Sound the alarm.
Houdini Fontmeister.
Oh, I love that name.
Sometimes I love these names.
This is so good.
How much resolution until we are into diminishing returns? Is there an equivalent frame rate that would be more than needed as well?
Let me think about this. Resolution. There's so much more to it these days. I think with like the way images are constructed, there's many ways to approach it. Resolution is obviously key, but it's the combination of elements. Like if you just take a raw 4K image without any sort of anti-aliasing or anything going on, it's going to look a lot worse than like a lower resolution but heavily anti-aliased image. So it's a complex issue, and ultimately the goal is to get closer to film like visuals. If you look at CGI, it's actually pretty soft comparatively, but there's zero aliasing. It basically looks flawless, and that's kind of, I think, the direction that's developers would like to move into. And for frame rate, I mean, I think 60 is a perfect sweet spot because it's feasible, but I definitely prefer higher. So, you know, if I can get 120 FPS, that's fantastic. Yeah. I love that or higher, you know, but 120 is really nice. I love playing games at 120 hertz. Even like you play like an old side-scrolling game at 120 hertz, because some indie games do support this, and man, it feels good. You can't do that with these old games though. That does not work. They are hard-coded at their original frame rates.
By the way, this game you're playing right now is one of my favorites on the device.
Dude, this game is really crazy. It's a cool one. Of course, I'm just kind of button mashing my way through
I
while
love
talking,
the
but it is
interchangeable
cool.
weapon.
Yep. Just upgrades and just the designs of the robots and everything. We should probably play something else, but beat them up the next game though.
That's
John.
true. That's true. This reminds me of Cyborg Justice, but better.
Yeah.
Not to knock Cyborg Justice.
This is like Rise of the Robots, but good.
Oh. I mean, you could say that about anything.
Pretty much. Don't tell Rich though. I've heard he's a pretty big fan of Rise of the Robots.
Oh man, that's funny. Gosh, Rise of the Robots. Are you guys gonna do like a Rise of the Robots stick? With every version of Rise of the Robots on a big stick shaped like a Rise of the robot.
You're trying to ruin Ben's career just immediately on stream.
But they still haven't.
These are the worst.
They haven't risen though. That's the problem. The robots have not risen.
They
because
tried
it
to
failed.
rise twice. You don't.
It must happen. Oh man.
But speaking of Rise of the Robots, there was a planned arcade port which was canceled.
Oh,
the
that's
ROM is
right.
out there,
That's
and
right.
It actually is the best version of that game.
It is the best version.
Which is why it was canceled.
That's right.
Super chat from the Ozone Nightmare.
Oh, it's our good buddy Ozone.
Good evening, gentlemen. Wanted to say I'm greatly enjoying the new DF Weekly, and also these streams have been fantastic. Great to get devs involved. Yes, I agree. It's great to have people like Ben here to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah, we had
creating these devices.
Edward from Night Dive last time. We got Ben here from Cock. You know, it's fun. It's good to actually. So obviously, you know, the main focus is we like to stream ourselves, but having people that are involved in the development of stuff is something I personally want to do more of in time, just because I think it's fun and interesting to get that sort of insight into this stuff, whether it's brand new games, hardware, or anything like that. You know, there's a lot to learn from that and take away to get the full perspective. So I'm glad some folks are enjoying that. I enjoy
Nice
it
sign
too.
of the times where you got a floppy disk to pick up on this game.
Yeah, I saw.
Oh
that.
yeah, that's
I
true.
love bits like that. I love bits like that.
It's super cool, yeah.
Well, the floppy disk survives in the shape of the save button on most applications.
Oh, this thing.
So.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of an interesting thing that survived all this time, only because it's like, I mean, a lot of younger folks are not going to know what that is.
No, that's the save button.
Unless they look it up.
Oh, we're educating them.
Exactly. Oh man. Anyway.
Someone in the chat, it's not a super chat, but I'll let you get through. Anyway, you broke the glass ceiling. We need a Bubsy stick. We absolutely need the Bubsy stick.
A Bubsy stick.
It would only have
that would be
Bubsy
good.
1 on it, but don't need anything else.
Actually, thinking of that, one of the cool things that you mentioned to us was for this thing is that you're actually like trying to explore options to expand the library, which is also kind of unusual.
Oh, it's absolutely insane that we've been unable to expand the library officially. Absolutely insane. I could have saved myself 6 months development time if we didn't have the Wi-Fi functionality on it. The Wi-Fi functionality, yes, sure, was okay. At least we can do updates. That's pretty cool. I did always like the idea of online leaderboards because I didn't want to send to market a dumb terminal, a dead terminal. I wanted the machine to be alive, and when you're online, you're alive. And although we have progressed and made the user interface and the features much more advanced, or basically what they should be, the absolute bottom line of the inclusion of the Wi-Fi was my own very strong belief that we should have put up more games to be purchased online. And in fact, if you look at the latest user interface, John, there's a button in the bottom left-hand corner. That should be a shop. It's not.
Oh, right.
We did have discussions just after launch. We got far, had 4 games picked, but it's difficult to explain how tricky sometimes big business is, and you just get no. And there was a technical reason why we couldn't do it, and that was because this machine is a third-party licensed machine. It's not actually got. It's not Capcom. They were involved. They helped advise. The licensing deal is with them, but it's a Koch Media product. It says Capcom all over it, and it just has Capcom games. But the whole intention of the Wi-Fi was to bring 4 games, and the reason why it broke down early last year is that it was a technicality. This is a plug and play licensed product, and if you then give the ability for people to purchase games digitally via download, it's a responsibility that moves in a company from one area to another area, and I think the licensing area is totally different. You imagine what Capcom digital distribution department's like. I mean, it's it must be absolutely ginormous.
Oh yeah, no
just
doubt.
Simply because of that change. It was
So you're not going to be able to do Wi-Fi extra games, but are you exploring other means to get games onto this thing?
Yeah, I mean it's really weird to talk about because the machine required work on updates to bring the features up that everybody like you said at launch give it a fair shot. They're like, come on, polish this up. There is everything. So always my mind was on this need, we need, although I had it in some respects, I was also obviously doing this channel of let's get some more games off Capcom and we'll digitally distribute them via Wi-Fi. It didn't happen, so my mind was then concentrating on sorting the user interface out and giving those quality of life features to the people that have invested a lot of money on the device. And then, because we work with the hardware all the time, it became apparent in the last couple of months that it is feasible for software modification to be made. Enables the extension port on the back, a USB port, USB dongle plugged in.
Yeah.
So I have it's on our Reddit forum. We have talked about it. So, and I have finished a pitch. Have chosen games. I have costed it, and the next bit is go to Capcom because it can be then just a licensed physical product. It's not a digitally distributed product, so it's kind of
so then it's okay.
Obvious way
potentially
not to try and get around anything, but
to stay within. Right.
The core premise here is not to be. Well, I'm not ashamed of it. It's just like we just want a few more games.
Right.
That collection of CPS 1 and 2, like I said, I think we said it before the stream started or shortly after. It's glorious. And what is people have invested money, and I think there can be any argument against adding games to the machine, and so this is just a way that we've thought of attempt to get around the impasse that we had early last year. And let's see, in update 1.7 there's some under the back-end features that we're making that will hopefully begin to allow that to happen. So
it is. So basically, what you're saying is, it is technically possible to expand the library with the USB port,
yes.
Which is cool. Anyway, Audi, I think I see some supers.
Yeah, so we have some super chats now. Ben, there has been a few questions regarding the emulation on the system. I don't know what you can say about it, so do you want to comment on it, or what can you say?
It's public knowledge. It was a infamous scandal.
Was it? So what's the question?
I greatly regret it. greatly regret it. Regret anything ever happened. I regret the way I dealt with it. Did come to agreements in the end. But if I was to do it again, you just have to reach out to people as quickly as possible and just talk to them. And that's what I do in the future. And that's my position.
Yep. All right. So from Houdini Fontmeister again. Love the streams and enjoy the content. Congrats on being my first super chat ever. Will we get more DF retros like the Donkey Kong Country one you did?
Oh yeah, definitely, dude. That's
What a game.
There's actually a bunch of DF retro episode stuff that I have in the works right now.
Yeah, quite a few.
So there's stuff coming, but yeah, it has been a little bit tricky lately with everything going on. All the modern stuff, but we're trying to come up with a nice plan to get more DF retro made. So that's the idea.
So from Nolasco, hi guys, a quick question about 2D game conversions. How did the Saturn 2D game conversion like Street Fighter 2 games and the other 2D games compare against the PS2 versions of the same games? Thank you.
Ooh, I think it kind of varies per game. Let me think here. Because the thing I can't remember is, so the PS2 ones, the quality of those would vary on whether they supported 240p output or not, because the Saturn versions always did. So, and I don't remember what it is for the different Capcom games actually off the top of my head. Because a lot of those, it's like mixed. There's a bunch of these PS2 collections or like versions where they only run in interlaced mode, which is not optimal for kind of pixel art like this.
Yeah,
which is always annoying. A lot of the SNK stuff is like that, which is really frustrating. But you know, the Saturn stuff I'm really partial to. I think a lot of those ports are really, really good, especially with the RAM expansion. The only problem with some of the ports, like if you look at Dungeons and Dragons, like I have that conversion, and it looks perfect. It's exactly like the arcade game, but it has additional loading times that you don't get in the arcade. So in that sense, it's a little bit of a step down. But it's close enough where it's like visually basically perfect. I mean, any differences are
especially
very
for its time.
Oh, for its time, it was incredible.
Incredible. Yeah, so, I think when it comes to Capcom ports to PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and such, that's probably a future video we will do in some regard. At least some of the compilations and whatnot, I'm sure we'll take a closer look at. Some of them are pretty fun.
Most definitely.
And things like that is already in the works, so look forward to future announcements.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just again, someone broke the glass ceiling. I read that someone said the Mortal Kombat 2 DF Retro, please. And yes, of course, we were never intending on ending at 1. So, and we have a lot of good memories of that, because I think it wasn't the first DF Retro we worked on together, but it was the first time we kind of split evenly.
Yeah,
kind of like,
exactly.
This work.
Exactly. We really worked directly together on that, which was really fun.
Like,
and
before that, we were dating. We got married with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm screwed now. That's the glory with this Super Puzzle Fighter.
What's your favorite Capcom game on the device, Ben?
Gigawing.
Gigawing. That's an interesting answer. What's
really Gigawing?
Yeah,
I was thinking the other. Yeah, I must have played them all for hundreds of hours between them all. What was a shoot 'em up? I've always been a shoot 'em up guy. I think a little bit of it is that I played the Capcom Home Arcade and the games on it at standard arcade difficulty for probably 2 years. And Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting at standard difficulty, it's rock hard. I mean, I'm not a professional or anything like that, but I can play Street Fighter 2, but it is hard. You compare standard arcade difficulty of Hyper Fighting versus, say, Alpha 2. Alpha 2 is enjoyable at standard arcade difficulty I found. And so a lot of the games I think on the Capcom Home Arcade are just too difficult, and that's why the dip switch inclusion was just so essential.
Oh, that's right. You guys added the dip switches. That's right. I'll show that momentarily.
It's really important. I mean, I have two personal game testers here, ages 6 and 10, and I could see the difference when I cranked the difficulty down, bombs up to maximum or whatever, lives up to maximum, and I could see that they would play them longer. And it was just, I may have not played some games because they were just much.
Right,
they were just too hard at the standard difficulty, and I just got in the groove with Gigawing, and I can hit a trillion points. And it's
Gigawing's good
just
though,
one
for
of those
sure.
things that you gravitate to. I don't know why it is. Then I like Aliens vs Predator. Then I like Street Fighter 2. And then at work, our main game is what John's playing now. Our main game is Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo for some reason. You just fall into love with games, and although I've given an answer, it's just one of those things. But yeah, Gigawing.
Yeah,
Gigawing.
I used to play it a lot on the Dreamcast. It's excellent on there.
Yeah, good port.
Yeah, Capcom did a lot of awesome ports on the Dreamcast. Actually, in general, that was one of its biggest strengths. There's so much good stuff on there. Even the 3D stuff was usually really good from on the Dreamcast.
Yeah,
I mean, Power Stone is still awesome looking. I love those games. Project Justice, actually, I even think the PlayStation. Was that?
Power Stone was on the list.
Oh, for this?
Yeah.
Really? And it's not on here? Oh man, that would have been
a very, very early list.
Oh, dude, that would have been cool.
Then you figure out. Then I said, well, 3D.
So.
40 frames a second.
Oh, okay, I see the problem.
Yeah.
And I quickly started to think we need to concentrate on a CPS collection. Because I had things like Black Tiger pre-CPS in the mix as well. Loads of games were in the mix.
Sure.
But I do remember Power Stone being quite late in getting chucked out of the mix. Then again, going back to the Wi-Fi and the updates, I obviously thought of collections of pre-CPS and then stuff like that. Because the CPS collection is so great and it all works so well, all at the same resolution, right. All work together. I kind of, from a wide selection of games, just got it to 1 and 2, but for many reasons.
The thing about Power Stone though is that it's less accessible, I think, than a lot of these games, and it's something that I think a lot of people would really enjoy today. Whoa, that was pretty epic. But so it's definitely one I would love to see come back in some way from Capcom. But they just they haven't touched Power Stone since the PSP version, which it's actually a pretty impressive conversion for the platform. If you overclock your PSP. If you don't, then it's less impressive.
Really?
If you overclock it, then you get mostly a stable 60 FPS. Without that, it's pretty unstable. But
okay, that's interesting.
But PSP is tricky because it's not really, you can link up with other PSPs for multiplayer, but it's not as trivial as just different controllers. So it loses a little bit of that accessibility you got on Dreamcast. This game never showed up. This never showed up on Dreamcast, though, did it?
No, I don't think this came out. I have the PlayStation 1 version of this game.
I have it on Saturn, but not. Yeah.
Wasn't there a bizarre release recently as well on iOS?
Yes. Wasn't that based on...
They then cancelled within a few weeks or something. They released it and then cancelled it. Is that right? Delisted it at least.
Something like that.
Because there was the HD version on PS3, which was by... the backbone, which is quite blurry and kind of not the nicest version. I forget if the iOS version was based on this. So
Yeah, I don't remember.
Audi, this is a game that was I kind of had to force through.
oh yeah,
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Why is that?
Voice actor. Voice actor.
oh yes.
Oh, you
And
know
the
all about
voice
that.
actor.
We said, okay, we'll drop Puzzle Fighter and we'll put in Puzzle Loop 2. I was
Right.
like, and I like Puzzle Loop 2, but it is not Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. So we just had to go through the pain of another additional license, which is a voice actor license, and this machine, I had a look today actually. I looked at the old documentation.
So somebody
Super
say
Puzzle
wait.
Fighter 2.
Somebody saying the controls in Power Stone were poor in the Dreamcast, and I see
exception to this.
compared to the arcade, I kind of see what they mean, but I do feel playing, especially with a nice arcade stick, it feels really good on Dreamcast still. I would not complain about that.
Yeah, as Ben was saying about the voice actor licenses, because I don't know how much he can say like officially, because I don't know your paperwork, but I can talk about that a little bit because I spent the last 10, 15 years localizing adventure games from Japan, and generally the budget for localization of these types of games or any game with extensive voices from Japan, those licenses will be incredible because the agencies in Japan will basically force you to do a worldwide license. So whereas in Japan, you're licensing that voice or that actor for Japan and then get a rate for this, as a foreigner, you will have to license that actor for worldwide distribution, which basically means all the countries, all the territories, and there is no middle ground here. You can't just say, well, it will only be released in Europe or it will only be released in North America. That kind of agreement doesn't exist. So therefore, on a $10,000 budget localization, voice actor license can then go up to maybe $30,000 or even more, depending on which agency it is. Yeah.
These games are I went insane when I started finding out about it. That's just like, and I ran to people at
The licensing stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I can remember being on the phone and it was like a hairdryer moment, and I was like,
oh,
some of these people must be dead that did this voice acting. I mean, these games are 20, 25 years old, and you're asking me for X amount? Oh. It's just the agencies. That's just how it rolls, Ben. Pay up. And
I mean, they got a pretty sweet deal going on, I would say.
Yeah, I mean,
jeez,
there's so many aspects to these kind of things that just automatically preclude you from having games because you just go, nope, voice acting issues. The Capcom, I think that kind of arrangement was had to be made for Puzzle Fighter, Darkstalkers. I never see Darkstalkers re-released, and bizarrely, Mega Man Power Battle.
Oh yeah, that had licensing as well.
Yeah, I had to have three separates on that, and it's just painful. So when people say, I've seen it so many times, why hasn't it got Cadillacs and dinosaurs on it? And you think, we did think about it. We did approach people.
Well, yeah, I mean, that I usually, it's the same thing with like a lot of game development stuff. People will say, oh, how did they miss this? Or how did this get caught? And it's usually the answer is that they didn't miss it. It's just that there's a lot of other circumstances regarding budget, time.
And those circumstances are not well known. So it's kind of like, it's quite a double-edged sword for people like us that publish games and localize them especially. It's like, there's all these costs and agreements and paperwork that need to be done that is near impossible at times. Yeah, it's a hassle or impossible because at some point some of these companies don't even want to go through with such a deal because they're not set up for this kind of structure. So, from whether it's
Especially when we're
taxes or
talking
whatever.
about- Especially when we're talking about legacy games of this age.
Yeah.
I mean, I had UN Squadron on the list.
Oh yeah, Area 88. But that's an anime,
Try to
so
contact people.
Yeah, it's an anime.
Try to contact people. And you think, how am I going to spend 40 hours of my working month looking for somebody to talk to about Area 88? You got to think, I will spend 3 hours. There's a limit. Or this thing will never come out, so you just have to ditch it. But then people say,
Yeah.
where's UN Squadron? It's like, ah!
oh, I know.
But then there's things like, I had another good example. I really wanted Saturday Night Slam Masters and
Oh man.
Origin Destruction. Oh man, those games,
yeah.
come on.
Oh, I know all about those games. So
That's true.
Yeah.
that
It would've been a dream.
requires artwork sign off, I believe. And so there's so many issues. There can be a brand, be voice acting, it can be the artwork, it can be just a multitude of things that kills it. But sometimes you have to drive forward and be lucky with like AVP and get it through.
yeah, something like Muscle Bomber is so difficult because, of course, it's very much a Capcom game, Slam Masters in the US. But the original concepts were done by Tetsuo Hara, who did Fist of the North Star, or Hokuto no Ken.
Aye.
And that means that he's involved in that licensing process, and that's I've actually met him. I interviewed him for my book, and it's just not part of his daily routine and schedule to go through these licensing deals. So you don't really get through to them. But it's just okay, you can try, but he's busy with other things. Gotta do a super chat. Tutorial
Awesome.
Dungeon.
Ooh, that's a
says,
good name
do
too.
Yeah. Do you think Capcom will ever revisit the Street Fighter 3 series in some way, like a remastered, rebalanced version similar to Hyper Street Fighter 2?
Whoa.
No, because Third Strike and Second Strike both.
It's not Second Strike, it's Double Impact, I think.
Double Impact. It's been a long
Tired,
day,
I could tell. It's alright.
I have had a ton of issues with exporting, but Third Strike especially. I think as a tournament game, it's already so established that I think putting out... This is an issue they faced with the HD remix and then Ultra Street Fighter 2, was that they continued rebalancing these games, but the Evo community and such still kind of... They facilitated themselves on an established version already. So it never will really reach the intended audience, I think, with these rebalances.
That's right. Yeah, that's a tricky thing, though. You're right, because when you have the FGC versus the other people that would play a fighting game, they're very different. They're two separate audiences, and it's really hard to actually target both. I think almost impossible, I'd say, to please both crowds completely. I think a game can please everyone, but one is going to feel favored over the other.
Yeah.
So that's a tricky one.
It's a very particular community. I play fighting games all the time. I'm not a professional or anything, but back in the Magfest days and whatnot, I used to play a little bit competitively with Justin Wong and whatnot. So, but I don't have much involvement with the FGS.
By the way, this Capcom Sports Club here. Interesting thing is this is a this arcade game has the 3 different sports in it, but they actually released a version of the tennis game on the Dreamcast. So, yeah, they did. I'll show you.
Oh boy.
Let's see. While you look at that, I will do the last super chat.
Check it out
from
Net to Tennis.
Yep.
So it's it is the tennis game on Dreamcast, which is cool. Had online play, which not active now.
Is it identically the same?
What's that?
Is it identically the same?
It's slightly. I mean, there's a few more features, of course, because it's a home console release, but it's that game. It's based on the Capcom Sports Club.
My complaint about tennis on this is the camera sometimes is a bit slow.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Doesn't scroll.
Anyway,
So, yeah,
sorry.
The super chat from Martin Beatty. Would you rather play Street Fighter 4 on Capcom's engine or Street Fighter 6? Would you rather play Street Fighter 6 on Capcom's engine or outsource to someone like Arc System Works for the graphics? Do you think it's a possibility?
I would prefer on the RE engine. I think Capcom's own technology, but I mean, wasn't Street Fighter 4 technically output? What was it? Outsourced to
DIMS?
Was it DIMS or was it I forget. It was one of the wow, terrible there. It was definitely one of those like third parties that contributed to the development of the game. So that's not unheard of.
No. I could see. I don't think they will go with the Arc System Works for the graphic engine. I don't think really the art style would.
Arc's engine is it's Unreal. So.
Yes. Well, I think they mean the graphics.
The graphic style
they use, and
I don't think they'll do that.
The hitboxes and the way they update. Yeah, so I don't think they would do this from a competitive standpoint, and just business standpoint. Don't really. I don't think this would be in Capcom's nature, but I mean, you never know. Yeah, Bandai did with Dragon Ball, but that was just because Dragon Ball is flat shaded and perfect for that.
Yeah, it is exactly.
I think 4 and 5 were DIMS, so they do outsource it.
I would totally see 6 possibly using the RE engine.
I was just gonna say this.
Although, I mean, 5 is built on Unreal Engine 4, so
yes.
I don't know if they would just continue with that development or if they would actually switch it up and use the RE engine, because they had done a lot of fighting games on the MT framework, but not RE engine yet, I don't think.
Well, RE engine is quite scalable.
It is,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think this is what the Capcom generally are looking for when it comes to their engines in general.
Jeez.
From MT framework and then up to.
And the computer serves like crazy in this game. I forgot about that. It's really hard with the latency here, because it's like that ball's just like flying.
Too hard.
I didn't show that. So yeah, you actually did add the dip switch stuff, which is cool.
I don't think it makes much difference.
What's the clock speed do? I mean, are you basically overclocking this, or is that to get rid of slowdown?
Yes. I think for half of the games it makes no difference, apart from perhaps in some specific areas of games you will occasionally get 1 frame drop. Pumping it right up to 100% stops that. Primarily, I would say I would always play it 100% for Gigawing, Pro Gear. Doesn't make much of a difference on 1944. But certainly for Gigawing, of course it's not authentic because there is no slowdown.
Oh Jesus, it's actually harder like this, isn't it?
Harder.
That's true.
Playing it for so much, I enjoy it more. Because it's slightly more of a test, and visually the image quality is better because it's not stuttering. Interesting thing about it. So that's what shoots them ups. It does help. It does make a difference. But there are 2 occasions. It'd be cool if you fire them up when you fire up Street Fighter and Darkstalkers. Because when you're playing Gigawing, it's not speeding up the game. It's just making sure there's no drops or no slowdown.
Right.
Weirdly,
of course.
Weirdly, on Street Fighter 2 and Darkstalkers, speeds the game up. So they must have had some kind of flexible clock speed on the machine, and you play it, and you should play Street Fighter 2 on max. Just about playable. It's really fast. It's just a bit of a novelty, a bit of a fun thing.
I'll definitely give it a try.
Give Street Fighter 2 a try on Max Overclock.
Max Overclock.
So we have a super chat here though from Vampire Rockstar. Hi John, I want to learn Japanese, but should I enroll at my local community college, or do you recommend any software, possibly both? I think we both can answer this.
Yeah, Audie's a little better than me at that, but
No, I'm not. My Japanese is terrible, and I really should have kept up with it more.
I had the same problem because I lived there like 15 years ago, so I'm like super rusty. But I've been trying to get back into it lately. The thing is like the way I think it's probably the same for us. The way you probably learned it back in the day is very different than what's available now. The tools are much better today, I think, and there's just more things that you can do to get into that. I mean, for me, the main thing I always have by my side is, and I guess you have to get to a certain point for this to be useful, but the Jisho app, which is basically used for, so you can see, I've any kanji I see in a game that I don't know, you can just look it up here, because you can actually, once you know like the stroke order and stuff, you can just literally write it here in the touchpad, which is very, very convenient. So you're like, oh, what is that character? And you look it up, you just write the radicals in there, and you can define it that way. You can make flashcards out of it that way, so you can actually basically create like a database or like a favorites list of things that you're trying to learn and remember.
You kind of need a bit of basics for that,
but
though.
that's too far to get into it. You're right. I think you should definitely.
I think the best way for people to do it is to get, mention local community college and whatnot. Yeah, I think getting the basics down at your comfort at your own community college and stuff, to get just the basics there, is a good idea. And then look into something like the JET program, where it's teaching English in Japan, living there, being in the culture, being in the country, so that you get pushed. Because like John and I worked in Japan, so like, you can't get away with just English at that point.
I also went to school. I took a school there. I was at the Shibuya Language School, which is right across the street from 8-4, this localization company. But that was great, because in that class, I already had some okay knowledge by that point, but I was kind of in the Chojukyu level. And it was the class, the professor only spoke in Japanese. And I had other people from around the world in that class as well. So that kind of really makes you kick it into gear, which I had to do for work anyway, because my coworkers outside of one didn't really speak good enough English anyway. So, but
entertainment and such
good.
Too helps.
It does.
You can watch a lot and memorize, but do keep in mind that when you watch specific, if you watch anime and stuff, there's tropes. You fall very much into a pigeonhole of similarity there, so you don't get much variety necessarily.
Also, a lot of the
language,
it's good to consume, but a lot of the ways they speak in their shows tends to be a little bit. It's not really.
As I said, it's tropey. So you can have people that speaks in like a childlike manner, and if you don't know how to differentiate between like Kansai Ben and all this, like,
I can't. Kansai Ben is still crazy for me.
It is, but it's very popular to use something like that in entertainment, because it's a funny, for them it's a funny accent, and for us it can just sound like anything else, right? So get your basics at your community college at your own pace, and then see like JET program, things like this, which gives an opportunity to live there, teach English, and then live in the language is my best. That's what I would do.
That's really what you have to do, I think, to get pretty proficient, for sure. The thing is, though, is it goes away pretty quick, so you really have to stay on it, I think, because for
like any language.
Yeah, well, because it's like, for me, it's like when I moved to Europe, and obviously my wife is French. I spent years then working on French instead, and I kind of let the Japanese language lapse. And I've been trying to get back into it, because now I have more reasons to, but it has been slow. So
as some people on this chat knows, I speak a bit of Portuguese because I live in Brazil, so I speak Brazilian Portuguese to a certain level. And sometimes when we go to the Brazilian restaurant, I have to make fun of myself for trying to speak it. But I've forgotten so much of it.
There's a Brazilian restaurant near my house actually with a very nice old lady from Brazil,
From Brazil.
and I think you surprised the heck out of her with that.
Yeah, she didn't expect me to come up and speak in Portuguese, but she was very nice, and she had moved there, moved to Germany with her husband.
Yeah.
So that's how they ended up there. But yeah, so but I've forgotten so much of Portuguese. When I was there, I had there was no English option for me
Oh my
most
gosh,
of the time.
I cannot even imagine. Yeah.
So,
So.
languages.
Oh man, yeah.
I love learning languages.
It's
though.
fun.
It's one
They're
of my-
fun to learn, but it can be frustrating sometimes.
It's very rewarding, but the only way you can reap those rewards is to speak with native speakers. Let's just say that. So eventually, you have to put yourself in a position where you don't have much of a choice, and that's where the big change happens, because it's like that Simpsons episode where Bart goes to the French wine.
The French winery, yeah.
Yeah, and then he doesn't know how to speak French until the very end when he has to talk to the policeman. It's very much like that.
Ben oui.
Uh,
C'est comme ça.
Matteus Bonelli, to the bay.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so I tried setting this up on. I cranked up the clock speed. So you're saying this is going to run extra fast? Whoa.
Oh yeah, let's
mean-
look at this. I'm curious about this because I am quite good at.
I mean, this is ridiculous.
Fighter.
This is too fast. This is nuts.
We'll see. I mean,
at-
there was the turbo options.
Oh, you're Are you behind on the stream? Because to me, this is ridiculous.
Oh, I'm a bit behind on the stream. Yeah, but,
It's like
It's turbo times 3.
yeah, this is a little bit faster.
This is
than I
nuts.
would be comfortable at.
what the
but
heck? This is hilarious though. The
Actually,
scrolling's
funny-
it's not even smooth. It's just because it's like it feels
Yeah,
like the
it's
game's
kind
in
of
fast
choppy.
motion.
It's kind of funny to me because when we do get, usually when we get some kind of arcade-related hardware to test, John will call me over and it's like, "Hey, can you beat Street Fighter on this thing?"
Yeah.
And it's like,
Dude,
if I
you're
can
good.
beat Street Fighter on one credit, then you're like, okay, this
Oh,
is a good device.
this is really hard to play like this.
So, and I did do that on the Capcom Home
That's
Arcade.
right.
So
You also
that was how I
tested.
determined that was.
You also tested the Mister out that way when we visited
Yeah, Wolf.
the
right,
wolf
Cloud.
the wolf house.
Yeah. Our dear friend. Yep, that's right.
But
That's-
actually, we
that's-
should. Oh, go ahead.
That's an interesting topic.
What's that? FPGA.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should talk about
Did I pay you
FPGA.
money?
So, you've been kind of like looking at this stuff as well. I think a lot of us have, because FPGA stuff is really good, especially like the stuff that Yotego has been doing on the Mister, because he also has been doing a lot of Capcom stuff. He's like the god of this. Not that everybody doing those cores, all of those guys, man, they're doing incredible work. But yeah, Yotego in particular has caught my fancy for sure.
Oh, for real. I've followed him quite a while. In on the Patreon and everything. I mean, obviously, I had an interest on it. This preservation angle, where it's a step above emulation, it is basically the same as
I mean,
the original.
it's technically still emulation. It's like hardware emulation versus software emulation. Like people always kind of get into arguments over the semantics there, but I think it's still emulation. It's just it can be. I say it's pretty. I always hate to say that though, because there's some emulator authors that are doing some incredible stuff with psychoaccurate emulation. But the thing there is that you do need a pretty powerful thing to do it. So like a little SoC like this could not do psychoaccurate emulation, right? But a small FPGA could. So that's kind of it gets into the point of like, I was thinking it would be cool to see other products, take advantage of that in some way, because the Mister is also something that you purchase, but if there was find another way to integrate FPGA into another product, that could be really interesting.
It's seeing the cost of the Cyclone chips come down. That's what's interesting.
They're getting
And
reasonable.
also, We're now approaching FGPA small boards, approaching ARM-based SoC prices. No, it's approaching it. And before FGPA, wow, I mean that was an expensive purchase.
FPGA, it's those chips were pretty expensive for a while, but they've been coming down for sure. The Cyclone 5s are very popular. That's used in a lot of devices now.
You can feel it coming, and he's obviously at the forefront of it. You can feel this wave coming. Everybody talks about it. It's always, you look on forums and it's always high up there. So, and
it's for good reason. They're awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I have obviously a personal interest in it, and then I look at it with a commercial eye. I'm not doing anything, but it's certainly something that I would watch. Purely from that purity angle, it is that. I think that's surely step ahead.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what the next few years brings with it. They keep making them smaller and smaller. So very interesting. And it's great. Every Friday he releases a video and just gets.
Oh my gosh!
Great because he releases videos of games that he's finally got working and he's now moving in. I think he's over the last couple of weeks. CPS2 is beginning to run fine.
Yeah, it has been. It's been running fine for a while. He had Super Puzzle Fighter first, and then more and more games I think have been coming online that he's implementing. So it's like
that is the future, though, John, isn't it?
I mean, in my opinion, that's a great thing because what they're doing is like people like Yotego and all of these guys, they're essentially like documenting the chips in these boards because to make this work, you're documenting each and every chip. So you can implement it as FPGA. You could use this for creating software emulators. You could technically make new chips, fabricate new chips based on this if you had the resources to do it. So it's basically like preservation for individual chips, and it's like slowly but surely. You saw like Mr. start off. A lot of these guys were doing very early simple arcade games, but at the same time they were actually almost building a database of chips. And it's like, okay, well, this board, this early board is pretty simple. It has these chips, but then these more complex ones might still use some of these chips for other functions, and it just kind of builds on itself. And once you get to the CPS stuff and Neo Geo, which was, a lot of games used pretty much the same configurations, you start to get a lot of wins from that. And it's amazing to see, I think, like the work that they're doing at that level, the circuit level like that. It's very cool.
What I particularly like about Chitego in particular is that he's obviously just completely passionate about it. So he releases games, everyone goes, yeah, games. But then he, once every few weeks or a few months, he'll do it really, most of it's above my head. He writes really well, and he goes into how these chips work, and they're the things that I really like to read.
Oh yeah,
he goes long form on them as well, and I love that thing. And hats off to the people that spend so much of their own personal time with such a dedication of getting things just perfect like him. I love it. I absolutely love it.
There was something recently where I can't remember what it was, but he was able to sort of discover a lot of minor bugs with the timing and correct them all. And it's like it's getting really accurate now. And it is actually his CPS 1 stuff is far more accurate than MAME now. Even though to the average user you're not going to see a big difference, but there are subtle differences, and just in terms of raw accuracy, his timings are just better. But again, you can do insane stuff with software emulation on the PC as well. It just has more of an overhead, and it's a different thing. So I think it's all very valuable work. I love it all.
would we not like it to be here at all, or for people to do these things? Of course we want people to do these things. Imagine not being able to play this game that you're playing now, only be able to buy it once every couple of generations.
I mean, that's why we've been having all these discussions about the PS3 and Vita network shutting down, because that kind of stuff is really, that's terrifying. In terms of like, you know, just whole marketplaces going away like that. I don't like that at all.
Because they're digital only and then lost, as in no physical copies.
A lot of games
games
are like
yeah.
that, yeah. And that's, I mean,
Yeah.
it's really just you have to rely on the piracy community, really. And that sucks, but that's just how it is. Like, they're the ones that are actually saving stuff. And a lot of these companies sometimes will actually go back and reap the benefits of what those guys have done. So
Yeah, I mean, I
It's-
think about
it's
Video
a crazy
games.
topic.
Yeah, but video games companies are always bleeding edge technology, and you kind of can understand that. And I have a particular thing when discussing companies in general is that just people are always leaving. New
Yeah.
people come in and things get lost. I talk to people
Yeah.
and say, oh, well, this company hasn't even got the ROMs then. What? And like, there was, you know, it's like things just get lost. And I think it's because of the mentality of the video games industry of pushing technology to the max. You don't want last generation's tech. Maybe there's a part of that with that's specific to video games that isn't the same as, say, movies and music industry. Is that we are excited by very latest technology. So, well, fascinating topic anyway.
Yeah, exactly, because they go hand in hand with the technology. And, you know, that's something I like about classic games more than anything, is that the technology was very limited and developers had to be very creative with what they delivered. And I love seeing what kind of creativity you get out of pushing limited hardware. That's so exciting to me. Versus today, where it's like people arguing over like the new Xbox and new PS5. It's like, you can do anything on those. There's very few like real limitations. You can make any type of game you would want, and they're very, very similar boxes. Like, it's interesting still. There's a lot of cool tech there, but it's nothing like it was in the past. Where you had a lot of bespoke, I love that word, hardware that was designed. They were not general purpose devices. A lot of the chips were made for very specific purposes, because a general purpose device that did all of that at that speed just wasn't really feasible at the time. But it looks like, oh yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I got it. Oh, I'm on top of it. The ozone layer sends a super chat saying, the great part of Mr. Capcom Home Arcade, or even just software emulation, is that it keeps the interest alive.
Yeah.
Preservation by any means, right? Yep.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Right on.
I mean, the devices like Capcom Home Arcade gives you a very authentic feel. Also, with the micro switch, joystick, the buttons, you know, it's even closer to home in that sense. 'Cause
Oh, yeah,
you get,
the-
like, that,
the
the
stick is-
sounds and the feel.
The sticks are really good on these. I will say the buttons and sticks.
I'm going to embarrass myself, and I was a proponent of putting Sanwa out.
Oh,
Yeah, I was.
Oh man, Ben.
I looked at loads and loads and loads of sticks, all branded. I could tell Sanwa was the best in the end. At the beginning, I really liked a very stiff stick. I can't remember who it was by. Quick, I can't remember. But then over time, I really liked the Sanwa feel, and
See,
especially the Sanwa button feel. But
I'm just glad you went for.
generic.
Oh, here we go. The ball stick, rather than the bat, because you know there's the ball versus bat argument for this, and a lot of American arcade games use the bat stick.
Who uses the bats?
A lot of American games have those.
All right, let's. All right. Yeah. What? So ball stick was Japan and the rest of the world and America back.
I wasn't familiar with European arcades, just Japanese, and that was typically.
I remember the ball stick. So,
Yeah. I'm sure people in the chat are familiar with the bat stick because those things were like used in a lot of games in the U.S. back then.
There's another super chat from David saying Kudagari, sorry. Kudagari single-handedly trapped the...
he wrote Kudagari, but it's Kudaragi.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, but he single-handedly trapped the PS3 to its own architecture. #free Metal Gear Solid 4. It's harder to emulate PS3 than Saturn or anything else. Well, we freed Will Judd, so...
PS3 emulation's in a good spot right now, actually.
Yeah, right now it is.
The PC emulation for PS3 is pretty good. Like, there's still plenty of games that don't work properly, but some of it works really well.
Yep.
So it's in good shape, but it does kind of suck that there's no way to get those games on a newer PlayStation.
Yeah, it's wasted potential there. Huh?
I understand why, but still, it's disappointing. So the PS3, I think next week we were talking about doing a stream on PS3 stuff, and we'll have to see if because that could be fun. Kind of going through some of the hidden gems. No, not really. Just good games on the PS3 that I'm a fan of, and you're a fan of, and our guests are fans of.
Yes,
so that could be fun.
It'd be a fun stream, I think.
Absolutely.
If we get to do what we wanted to do.
It should work out.
Yeah, I think next week you will probably see us do some PS3 stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
The comparison he made to Saturn. I mean, Saturn for the longest time had its difficulties, but that's also in a much better place.
That's been cracked, I think.
Yeah.
Saturn emulation is solid right now, I think. It works pretty well, even on PCs still.
Xbox, the original Xbox, that's not.
No,
that hasn't been really emulated.
I don't think that's really much there. Also, I would argue that while it's okay, it's pretty okay. I think N64 emulation is still not as good as it could be.
Yeah, that needs a bit of. I know that
there's
Nier
accuracy
is working
issues.
On it.
That's right. Yeah.
And they have been doing a pretty good job at that. So when Dinosaur Planet was the one you did, Dinosaur Planet leaked.
Oh, I want rapid fire.
And on Nier was updating the emulator for that.
That's right. Man, I love that stuff.
Oh yeah, someone was mentioning also that the Sega Saturn FPGA is coming along, and that wow, I forgot that even.
I think I just saw him doing. He just got some work done on the VDP-1 and was getting into like the system UI, and among other things. And there's a ton of potential there.
Amazing, isn't it? Super chat from Ibra. Looking forward to the inevitable Digital Foundry arcade stick special. Also more FPGA videos.
I have a lot of arcade sticks now.
See, I've been wanting to do a game controller episode with John but I don't want to talk about the good ones. I remember back in the day there was like the Bart Simpson joystick, the Terminator joystick, all these awful ones.
Dude, I think you've just spurred the episode. If we go back and forth, I'll point out awesome controllers.
You controller,
you point out the worst.
Yeah. So,
it'll be excellent.
I know there was quite a few bad ones for the C64 as well. I forget the name of that company, but they made like an Alien joystick and Bart and Batman and all these themed joysticks, and none of them were usable. No, and my friend, for some reason, my friend had them for the NES, and he had one regular controller, and I never understood where the other one had gone. But he had all those joysticks. So it's like pick your poison if you ever went over to his place.
It's like, do you want the bad controller or the really bad controller?
Or the really, really bad one. I remember the Bart Simpson one had like a toilet stance. It's just engraved in my mind.
Oh my goodness. There's awful joysticks.
They were UK based. Maybe Ben, do you remember these joysticks at all? Because they were UK based, I think.
Really, I remember making a lot of Cheetah 125 pluses on my Amstrad CPC 464.
I think Cheetah was that.
Cheetah. Remember Cheetah Brand?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
And stuff like that. Wasn't there a really weird Pokemon controller or a Dragon Quest controller that was like one button for? That's one that's.
It was the Slimer, or the Slimy.
Yeah. I can admit that I've made quite a few controllers in my career at Koch. I was the guy behind the. Did you ever see the Doctor Who Sonic Screwdriver Wii remote?
No.
What?
That sounds pretty interesting.
Google it, have a look at it. It's a crazy device.
Oh man.
We're currently manufacturing lots of C64 joysticks, Solus. So not just to go with the machines that are in manufacture. There's quite a reasonably good business in those. The quick shot or Hamston-like joysticks.
It's like Competition Pro and Quick Shot.
Yeah.
A super chat from Norway.
Oh, look at that.
I followed you for a long time. You finally found us. Greetings from Norway. Keep up the good work. He sends you 200 Norwegian kroner, which is about like, would be like 23 bucks.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
And nice to have someone else from Norway here.
Yeah.
Oops.
Begynner blir seint. Må snart legge deg, piggdog. Chainsaw controller. Yeah, I have the chainsaw controller.
Oh, dude,
for GameCube.
the chainsaw control. That thing.
I
Queued
still
up for it. I can remember. Queued up for it.
Have there been any specific wrestling controllers?
No, not necessarily wrestling controllers. So there were,
Except for Kinect.
yeah. So, most of the stuff you would find with wrestling theme. Recently, there was like a unit that looks like an arcade cabinet that comes with a modified steel cage challenge on it.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which was a terrible game, and then the conversion is equally bad. It uses bad NES emulation, believe it or not. And
whoops, I didn't want that.
yeah, so no specific wrestling controller. Of course, there was Hulk Hogan's main event, which used the Kinect, which uses your body, the ultimate wrestling controller, your own body.
Oh heck yeah, man! Those days of Kinect, not the best.
That was crazy. It really messed it.
I was not into that.
Speaking of wrestling controllers, there's a story I can share with you, which is in my book. But when I was talking to David Weiss, composer of Donkey Kong Country and Battletoads, I talked to him about working on the WWF games on NES because he did the music for those, or the two first ones. And he remembered that Hogan and Vince McMahon came to the offices during their UK tour to just check out the games they were producing. And there was a photo op for this. And David, he didn't have a TV. He didn't watch TV, believe it or not. So he had no idea who Hulk Hogan was, or certainly not Vince McMahon. But he was just like, who is this gigantic Hulk in my office? He just remembered that his hand was, as big as his entire upper body. But the one thing they had trouble with, because they were doing a photo op for the WWF magazine, but Vince McMahon kept holding the NES controller upside down and could not play the game because he kept pulling the console, it kept falling down.
Oh no!
And the game wouldn't correspond to his like he was just befuddled by this. Was like, it must be something the kids like. And just kind of threw it away. And they didn't get their photo op because of this. Because first of all, they didn't want to make him look bad, and second of all, I think he broke the NES. David said, like the NES just fell down, and it was like that's it. So it was kind of like a market opportunity for Rare back then that didn't happen. But somewhere David, I think, has a picture of him hugging Hulk Hogan, which I desperately want on my wall.
So that is really good.
Good one.
So some super chats. David, again, make sure you have lunch money for tomorrow, David. Yes, PS3, 360. Yeah, the WWE All-Star pad. Sorry. Yeah, that was a late one. So, not necessarily functionality was much different on it though, but yeah. And then Broken Halo, written with a 3 and no O.
Thanks,
Love your
Broken.
streams. It's quite broken, alright. I love your streams. I wanted to pick one of these up, but I've been waiting for USA North American release of it. Is there anything planned, or should I import? He's talking about the CHA, Ben. Availability in North America.
That's it. I don't believe I was mentioning it earlier. The manufacture process of it, the costs of it. I would say would never go into manufacture in that current state ever again. So it's a limited stocks available, but it will be obsolete by the end of the year. Whether something replaces it, I'd love it to, but we'd have to see. But yeah, I wouldn't be a salesman, but I wouldn't hold off. Just get it. We'll never make it again.
Oh man.
Well, I think it's pretty commendable that you update it for, if you say it's a limited quantity in such a way that you still update it for the audience is great, because
Yeah, exactly.
you're one of the few that can do it. So kudos to you and Koch. There's another super chat from Ibra. Another potential DF video, fighting game netcode.
Ooh.
Oh man.
See, I feel like
netcodes are complicated.
I would need to bring in some fighting game experts for that one, I think.
Yeah. I'm very good with the gameplay, but the netcodes I couldn't tell you much about because I generally don't play them online. I never liked the experience, and it has something to do with my experiences back in like the PS3 360 days, that people just quit. They would just disconnect when they were losing, and they just kind of like. And I also love playing games with people in the same room. I'm still very much
oh yeah, I don't like playing online.
Couch player with friends type guy. Yeah, I'm too old for this netcode stuff.
Exactly.
Though I think it's neat. I actually, every time I read about it, when I read about rollbacks and when I read about the technical details of it, I'm always impressed. I always love the stories and the hard work behind it. I just don't play it, which is probably a fault of mine.
Yeah. There was that story recently with Street Fighter, wasn't there, with some guy in the community that just fixed it.
There's always that story. That pops up on like every broken netcode.
I kind of feel like these days you could pretty much say, oh yeah, this thing launched and someone in the community made it better. And you could apply that to like 100 different things. Because that seems to happen a lot.
I got a story like that this morning.
All right, let's hear it.
I was contacted by a regular on the forum. And it's incredible. It's a machine that they take apart. They solder stuff onto it. They're doing all this stuff all the time. And I love watching it. And this one is a really good story because you cut when you're developing a machine, anything. You always cut due to cost or due to time constraints. And one of my real regrets is not pushing for more time to be allocated to making the machine, just plug in via USB to another device and just be used as a controller. Because as I was saying about keeping the machine alive and having a reason to power it up. This morning I was contacted by one and they say, oh, we've managed to do a software modification. And the machine can now play on consoles and PC. I was kind of involved with a third-party factory in China to have a bespoke Bluetooth board. But that involved unscrewing the machine, opening it up, and 95% of people I don't think are interested in that kind of heavy modification. It was there, and I can play Switch with my modded one, but it's not really a commercial thing. But
No.
they reckon that it's a software mod at the kernel level, and I'll see in the next, probably over the weekend, I'll see if this claim's true and that a simple software modification at the kernel level can enable the extension port, player one stick and buttons to be used on with like an X input device.
So yeah, theoretically, then you could also just use this as a dedicated arcade stick.
Yeah,
which is cool.
It just gets, it's just value.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
It matters.
Absolutely.
And so if it's true and we can do it, we'll put it in update 1.7, and fantastic thing to do.
That would be
We've been
cool.
there at the beginning.
Absolutely.
So I see another super chat. I feel kind of bad for this one because the guys paid 50 kroners to ask if I'm from Norway. You should save that money and just ask in the chat. But yes, I am. But
We appreciate
thank
it,
you,
though.
Of course, we appreciate the support, of course. But I feel kind of bad because it's expensive. in
Well,
Norway.
you could say something specifically for your Norwegian viewers, I guess. A secret
Yeah, I
message
guess,
that none of us will
Secret
understand.
message. Yes, let's see. Vel, tusen takk for 50 kroner, og på grunn av de 50 kronene så skal jeg få Rich til å spille CDFI. I think I can decipher that.
I can
message,
decipher
but,
some of that.
Bit naughty.
A bit, well, it depends on how you like your CDI.
All right.
Oh man. Oh yeah, this underwater stage has my favorite like line scrolling effect used in so many games back then. I love it. To do the underwater.
Well, I like this game. I really like this game's mechanic. It's odd. The music. I kept noticing it through credits when I was going through. His name is Sion. I kept noticing all the games that I was like tapping my feet to. This guy was always on it, and his time at Capcom was just littered with great games that he created sounds for. He was had quite a lot to do with tunes on Street Fighter 2.
Yep. Yeah, he was prolific.
Is he still going? I kind of saw he's obviously not
Still
with
around.
Capcom.
No, he's fully freelance these days, but he
Like-
also worked
like
for Konami
most.
for a while, and
Yeah.
so
I feel like a
well,
lot
it's
of the
essential to the Super Street Fighter.
sounds.
music.
Yeah. I think Shimomura
And what I like-
did the original,
so
right?
That was part of the reason of the inclusion of this game, but also, I mean, is this game 25 years old? It's basically telling us about ecology and pollution.
Yeah.
I mean,
Things
this
that we have not listened to that we've known for 30 years. I mean,
I know.
it's a fascinating insight.
well,
in regards to-
there was a movement in that at that time. I mean, there's like this, there's like Captain Planet, there's a bunch of other stuff where like the whole thing is based on that kind of concept. And well, you know,
Acid rain in this in a minute, hasn't he? In that.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Some super chats. Audi stopped telling people not to spend money on super chats. I'm just too nice. But please send us more money, David. You specifically. Keep sending us all your money.
yes, we love you,
and
David.
then- yes, especially your money. The Elsa Nightmare says, quick message swearing revenge on those who killed me an embarrassing number of times in the Unreal Tournament community game. So basically everyone else playing. Alright, I hope you get your revenge
Wait,
in the game.
were you? I can't remember. Yeah, that was fun. We played. That's right. He's referring to the other night on the DF Discord. We just did like an Unreal tournament, but like UT99, and it was pretty fun actually. I haven't played UT99 in a while, and we had a good time. Oh no, this
See
shit.
this bit here, John, where it's really slowing down.
Oh, yeah, that gets
If
fixed,
you,
but it's
if you
harder.
overclocked it, it kills you.
Oh no, is this like the ship that's stuck in the Suez Canal right now?
This is $10 billion of
oh, that one got me.
stocks being stopped every day because of that shit. 10 billion.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, how many video games and consoles are on those container ships?
I'm sure there's
yet more delays.
Probably a lot of PS5s in there.
I
People can't get their quintuples. It's rough right now.
Yeah, shooters have never been my genre. I've never been good at them, except for one.
It takes concentration, which is hard to do on a stream, but I've actually...
Oh yeah, for stream.
I like to sit down with them a lot and just play. This week I've actually been playing through, again, Gate of Thunder on the PC Engine, just because it's...
oh yes.
I do like that game a lot. It's a fun one.
Nice scrolling effects on that game.
That pushes the PC Engine pretty hard.
Yeah.
It looks amazing for the platform.
You know, speaking of mini consoles and whatnot, the PC Engine Mini or TurboGrafx Mini, I felt like that kind of fell by the wayside a bit. I mean, it doesn't have the same reach as Nintendo.
It had a really limited release.
Yeah.
Amazon only.
What's that?
Amazon only. I think they did a deal that I don't know. I'm pretty sure for Europe and the UK, you could only buy it from Amazon. I think they just did a distribution deal with. I don't believe it was available in normal retail.
No, I've certainly never seen it outside of Amazon.
It was also on. It was Japan, and I guess it was all regions actually, but it was really limited availability.
Yep. Pig Dog saying again 200 Norwegian kroners. Hope you have a great week. I hope so too. I hope you have a very good weekend, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Oh man. Iremes. I see somebody's mentioned X Multiply. That's a good game.
Combination of R-Type and Gradius.
Yeah, I like that one.
You know, I've been playing, speaking of things that we can kind of bring this all together a little bit, but a couple days ago I was playing R-Type on my C64 full size, which is another great device from Koch Media.
Oh yeah.
RGL.
Yeah, true.
Sorry, legal. Distributed and manufactured by Koch Media. Yeah, I mean, I thank my lucky stars that machine fell into my lap, both the Mini and the Maxi and the Big 20. It is still insanely popular.
I love the full size. I use it all the time for C64 stuff, so it's...
I like which joystick with it.
Oh my gosh, play.
One big change from the Mini was the change to. Did you ever have a Mini with this spongy?
Yeah, I mean, I had the Mini with the old joystick.
Yeah.
And I mean, generally, I switch to. I have a third-party Super Nintendo controller that works with the device, so I usually use this for each capture. But the joystick that came with the full size is much better and improved, and I did greatly enjoy the fact that you updated it as much you did. So it was very.
It still keeps trucking. There's still demand. It's a real. I said to somebody this week in the office that says, "This thing will be selling when we retire."
It's a great. I mean, it makes C64 much more
accessible again,
approachable, and you know, it scales up fine, and it has the support. I mean, now more so than ever before, C64 games are back. You know, we get a lot of new games from Pro Division and companies like this, so there's very much a reason to use the full size or the Mini.
We added a brand new game, I think, to the release of the C64 Maxi. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a 2019 game. Which one?
Yeah. I thought it was Soulless that you added?
Yeah, vertical shoot 'em up. Yeah.
Oh yes, that one. Yes, you did add that. So
Well, what I particularly like about, I mean, the guys behind it, and especially Chris Smith, he codes all the software and obviously directs how the hardware is built, and that it's an absolute joy to work with a guy like that. And oh, that's a machine that has constant updates. C64. Constantly updating it, making it better, and I don't think he'll ever stop. So even this week we're putting into manufacture containers worth of stock of that product to ship worldwide, and it's great to have a small part in that process. And actually, without area starting up back in 2018-19, I would have never been in that Chinese factory and never thought of a Capcom arcade stick. So I have a lot of respect and time for those guys. They care. They really care about the C64 brand.
A lot of people do.
You know, they're on social media all the time. Chris is always putting updates out, and we've still got stuff planned, still stuff coming out. I mean, there has been teasers of new machines that they've publicly released, and that will happen.
That's right.
So yeah, love working with those guys. Pleasure.
So we have some super chats. One for me.
Cool.
Audi, what's your favorite 3 wrestling games of all time? For me, it's SmackDown 4, which would be Shut Your Mouth.
That Shut Your Mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, wait, Shut Your Mouth.
Or is
yeah, it is Shut Your Mouth, I think, because Just Bring It was the third one. Shut Your Mouth.
Was Here
And
Comes the
then-
Pain? Where was that one? Was that?
That was the 5th one.
That's
the
fifth.
one with,
Yeah. Okay. So Shut Your
Brock
Mouth.
Lesnar on the cover.
Yeah.
No Mercy and Day of Reckoning, even Royal Rumble on Dreamcast. Yeah, those are all good. And my favorites, boy, this is hard because I actually have legitimately played every single wrestling game ever made, as is now noted in a certain book. I wrote a book about every wrestling game ever made, and nearly killed me.
I know it.
So my
Thanks, Friday Night Landmasters.
yeah, so Muscle Bomber is definitely part of my top 3. I love Muscle Bomber. I would say with the recent updates that Fire Pro Wrestling World is very high up there, and with the customization from fans and whatnot, you can almost not get it better. It had a rough release, but it's kind of made its way up. And
I think we distributed it in Europe. I think this was the Fire Pro kind of remake last year or the year before.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The year before,
we did. Yeah.
oh, great! I mean, it's a great game, and
I've got some promo
my
copies.
third one would be
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of my third one because it's hard because there's a lot of great ones. I know people are screaming at me to say one of the N64 ones. So I would have to say Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, the Japanese fantastic game.
I think you showed that one to me.
Yeah, it's great, but there are so many good ones. And let's see, what's more? The Ozone Nightmare again. I'd love to see a future dedicated shooter stream. If it happens, gotta have Axelate, Gradius 3 or 4, and R-Type among the
So
roster. Great stream, guys.
I do want to do a shooter stream, but before I do that, I have to set up one of my CRTs on the desk.
Yeah,
Because I can't play it like this. Because
with latency now.
it's just not. It's way too hard to play these games like this because everything's so delayed. So I need a small one because all I have is 20. I have like 6 20-inch PVMs and BVMs.
Yeah.
But I really want like a 9-inch or something, or like even just a 14 that I can stick right down here, which would be perfect for these streams. I think that's what our good buddies at My Life in Gaming do. They always have little CRTs in the desk.
I hope you get to stick your 9-incher there.
Oh.
EB Chill 2. says, "Hey John, would you ever consider doing a video showcasing your Japanese PS2 collection? Always love your recommendations. We should combine our Japanese PS2 collections. That would be what,
So,
600 games at this point?
it'd be a lot. It'd be a
Maybe we
lot.
should do a simple 1500 stream on PS2.
We should do a Japanese PS2 stream and maybe come up with a list of cool stuff to show. Speaking of which, you can get Mega Man, these two games, the two arcade games, on PS2 even. They released that together on a collection, which is cool. But yeah, man, PS2 is just PS1.
Fantastic.
PS1 and PS2 together are just such good machines. The libraries are so vast, so creative and interesting. There's just so much stuff on there. I love those systems.
Yeah,
I was just playing PS2 last night, actually, just because I was.
Yeah.
I had been discussing some stuff about the launch with Lance McDonald yesterday, and it's like, you know what, PS2, it's good. It's a good system.
It's good stuff. Speaking of shooter streams, I think one day we should invite our friend Chris Holsbeck back, and we should play R-Type on C64 and then Apedia on the Amiga again, with him talking about doing the music for those.
Apedia was a game that I didn't know before because I never really had access to this. But playing it now, it's a cool game, but the music is so good. My goodness, it's really good.
It's a good shooter. I mean, it's legitimately
cool.
a good shooter on the Amiga. Spartan 2 again. I'm guessing. Can we see a DF Retro Dreamcast stream one day, John Audi? I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but yes, I think Dreamcast streams and episodes and many other Dreamcast things can be very possible.
Yeah, the idea, I mean, ultimately, I want to try to find ways to do more of everything with this classic gaming.
And we are working
We are actually working on stuff behind the scenes to do more.
I wish so much we can just say all of it, but it will soon be revealed.
Yeah, because I mean that's more, I think, our personal kind of thing. 'Cause that's just the stuff I think we like the most.
Well, yes.
So it's like, I mean, I enjoy modern games, but I don't have that same. It's not quite the same for me.
No.
And some of them though.
So 2 messages here. First of all, EB Chill said he bought Chain Dive, and I actually love that piece.
Oh, I have that. That's a good game.
Yeah. So Ego Mezzle says, super chat. Hey John, planning on doing a game room tour someday. Loving these streams. Keep up the good job.
That would be, yeah. I've thought about that. How I would film it and present that. So I wanted to talk about the setup with the way I ran all the cables. You've seen it, Audie. It's complicated.
I would, yeah, this is something I think, I mean, I've seen it so many times that I don't need a tour, but I think people would find it kind of interesting how you organize your game collection. Because mostly it's just in shelves, obviously, and your room is pretty neat. It's very clean. So it doesn't have like showcases and whatnot, but what I think is always so interesting about your setup is just how clean your cords are, how you set up the retro consoles on your nice little bench, and all these things. So
yeah, I like to keep. That's the thing is like, I try to keep everything very, very neat and clean as much as possible to avoid clutter because I don't like clutter.
I can give you some behind the scenes exclusive here, but every time John and John especially when I'm visiting and we're doing an episode together, both of us have this weird habit where every time we finish a video or something, either if we're together or apart, we clean the room. That's something I do here as well. When I'm done with DF Weekly, editing that, I start cleaning the room. Has nothing to do with, I have not used this or that for the episode. It's kind of like this procedure I just go through. It's like, well, I finished, then I clean.
It's usually what during the export. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, it's like it's the way I demark the finish point between that project and then starting the next project.
I think we're the two only people that have like a rainbow colored duster behind the door. You know, it's just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
as soon as I saw that when I went to your place first, I was like, oh,
That's
you
funny.
also clean up the place with this? So,
It's
I would hope most people clean up their place with a duster. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but
yeah.
it's just that we had it in our game room, ready to go.
See, somebody says I don't like clutter, and then there's 2,000 games on the shelves behind me. But that's the thing, when you see it, it's like
They're
they're
neat.
they're super close to the wall. It doesn't feel cluttered in here. You know what I mean? It's very open and clean in here. Actually, the camera, the FOV makes it seem like I'm right up against the wall or something, but it's pretty clean and spacious in
library.
here. And if that wasn't there, there wouldn't be. There's nothing else to put there. So it's just, you know, it's like wall decoration, but I actually use this stuff a lot. So
Yeah, I've been looking to settle down in a house or something, and the one thing I'm always looking for then is like a proper basement to make a game room.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the dream. Wow, we got 2 super chats
All right.
back to back. We
let's
gotta
do it.
read. Houdini Meister again. I was told not to tell you to spend money, so I'm just telling you to spend more money. What is the game console you missed out on but got later and still felt nostalgic for? For me, it was the Saturn, and I love that system.
Oh, that's such a good
Question.
I had Saturn back in the day. Yeah, what about you?
So the system I felt most nostalgic for that I didn't grow with, like have. I'm gonna say the original Xbox because I didn't get into that at all until John basically was like, "This game is cool, and this game's cool, and this game's cool." And then I bought an Xbox, the original, I mean now, and I got Outrun 2 Coast to Coast on it, and I felt deeply nostalgic playing that.
That's cool.
So,
Before I say mine, though, I just saw some Spartan 2 ask if I'll get a gaming chair someday, and the answer is no. I actually have an ergonomic stool down here that I use, but I kind of go back and forth. It's a mechanical desk, so I like to use it in standing mode. So that's why I'm standing, because I usually stand while I work all day. I just think it's more comfortable, but I sit on the stool as well, depending. But anyway, the console I definitely did not own at the time, but I have a weird nostalgia for. It's gotta be it's the 3DO for some reason. Like I never had it. I did not have a 3DO. It's not an amazing system, but I read so much about it at the time. I had played it in store kiosks, and one friend had it, so I played it there a few times. So I have like a weird nostalgia thing for the 3DO, even though I didn't actually get it until like 2008. So
that's a really good answer because I have that same feeling. You and I love the 3DO.
yeah, it's cool.
And yeah, that's another one where I feel super nostalgic playing, and I think it has a lot to do with the art styles being used and like the FMVs and just the quirky Japanese games from like Kenji Eno and all these cool things with 3DO. So
Heck
good
yeah,
answer.
3DO, baby.
You upped me again, Lyndon. Sack Folly says, "Oh, I can definitely answer this one. How about a Street Fighter Alpha retrospective between all variants of Alpha 03, memory card support, loading screens on SNES? Cool stuff. So let me just first say that yes, of course, Street Fighter content will be coming up on DF Retro, and we have many ideas. But if you're interested in Street Fighter Alpha 2, because you're mentioning loading screens on the Super Nintendo, recently, Modern Vintage Gamer did a video on Street Fighter Alpha 2 on the Super Nintendo specifically, and I actually helped out with the episode. So if you go to his channel and check out Street Fighter Alpha episode, that was a lot of fun to make. Of course,
by the way,
MG did most of the work.
This selection, Blodia, there's actually a PC Engine game, I believe, called that.
Oh yeah.
Or,
Blodia, right.
is it on PC Engine? I can't remember. But
Yep.
that name, man, I don't know what to think of that. Blodia. But anyway, I think there's one more super chat in there.
Yes, I was scrolling down to it. There you go. Shadow Mask says, recapping my Genesis carts and watching the stream. You're recapping your carts? All right.
Why not? Hey. That's
I
cool.
usually
though.
hear about the consoles, but yeah.
Exactly. This game got a port on the Saturn, if I recall.
Yes.
It's a nice conversion.
With a
of that.
really cool cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks awesome.
And the character there also showed up in Marvel vs.
MVC,
Capcom
yeah.
2. Yeah.
Exactly. I liked him in that actually. There we go.
There is a question here
PC
that
engine.
I'll ask Ben, but Ibra is asking, would Koch consider getting into the peripheral market again?
In peripheral market?
Mhm.
Well, anything that makes money.
Good answer.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, the thing is difficult to bring value. You go to a Chinese trade show, you can be offered 1,000 different controllers all compatible with the same thing. What can we develop that gives something special to a specific controller? It's very difficult. And let's look at the Elite controller that Microsoft made. It's some absolutely incredible controller, the PS5 controller. We're going back to your point on third-party controllers. How can you match millions of dollars of investment that Microsoft make with theirs? I mean, it's tricky. You can be a Me Too brand. It's cool.
There used to be a lot of them. Not so much these days.
What are you going to do? I did have an idea, actually. I did have an idea, and I think it was previously made by Pelican. Or I don't know whether they're PDP now. And that was to put fans in. Because...
the sweaty hand. I remember I had one of those for GameCube.
Yeah, so I did think recently about trying to bring that back, but
I think it's really hard to get into that area because, like, I think most people are happy just using the first party pads.
Yeah.
I mean, the only area I think where peripherals really matters when it offers something that those don't. Like, there's always going to be a market for sticks, for instance, because that's its own thing. Or you could.
It's expensive.
There are no Bart Simpson shaped PS5 controllers. I'm just telling you that.
Let me make some notes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you guys are in the market of building these kinds of all-in-one units, you should talk to Sega and get a twin stick controller for some virtual on and get all the virtual on games on there. Yeah, go ahead. You can jot that down. It's okay.
I've been waiting for it. To see that pen.
They're always pitching. It's just an idea has to come through. It has to cut through. It has to. It's so boring to speak like this, but it has to match a P&L. Everybody's got to sign everything off, and then it'll go through. I would say, if I pitch tomorrow 20 products, and it could be a peripheral, could be some kind of arcade machine, could be an FGPA, something. 19 out of them will just be rejected at the first hurdle. And when you're in that line of business, one pitch can take you weeks and weeks and weeks and months of work, and you just get no. I'm sure that's life in most industries. Very, very few get through them. I would have never even thought the Capcom Home Arcade would have ever got through it. It just got through with some crazy maniacal devotion from me, where I didn't take no for an answer, and somehow it got all the way through to be made. So I think, that's a really interesting conclusion to come through. Is actually you really have to believe in the product.
That's
if
true.
I was to make a Xbox controller, really, I could get loads of people to work on it. What's it got? Would it be better than the Elite? No. So why bother? So you always I always say this on the Reddit thread. Everybody thinks that everything is possible. Why can't we just have everything? Because
Yeah, why can't we have
just,
everything? Come on.
lawyers say no. It doesn't work out financially. Everything is no all the time, and I'm sure that that's the case in the wider video games industry, but specifically where I work. No, no, no all the time, and you thank your lucky stars when you get a yes. I mean, if the poster wants to give me an idea for a peripheral, I can think about it. But that's the kind of industry we're in.
That's true.
I see a super chat from Ultra Elixir. What are some good game discovery resources if you slept on arcade games your whole life in gaming?
Man.
The Capcom Home Arcade is a good discovery.
So, these types of things are cool. You know, Hamster did a lot of cool collections as well.
Yeah.
There's plenty of stuff on consoles, but I mean, this gets weird because technically speaking, I mean, in terms of just having everything to experiment with, there's like MAME obviously has the most stuff,
Yep.
but the problem with things like MAME is that if you're trying to discover games, it's not really good for that because there's so many. So I feel like I actually think the Mister's been really good because it started with a lot of simple games and they've been kind of building up the arcade library, but it's still very small compared to MAME. But because of that, it's really interesting to discover them on there, especially if you hook it up to a CRT, because then you can actually get those original resolutions and it feels really authentic in a way that's really cool, I think. But
They also take a lot of configuration though. That's one of the main things that I always had in the back of my mind was the Capcom. It's like no configuration, no nothing. Plug it in and go.
I mean, yeah, that's the
always
thing.
key.
This is the thing when people say, "Oh, just use MAME or just use it." Like, there's a different tier of person for all these different things, and there's different things for everyone. And some users are not going to want to figure out Mister or even MAME, where you have to get all the correct ROMs and everything downloaded, that kind of stuff. That's not for everyone. So I totally like having simple plug and play products is actually very appealing to a wide number of people, and or having arcade games available on existing consoles.
The choice is too narrow. That's the issue there. The choice is too narrow. The publishers don't. We'll get back to the conversation that we always have. You can have everything. It's complicated on that other side. You come into this side that we're talking about today. You can have 16 games. And most people say,
So,
"Well, I want to choose from 2,000."
See, Matt's saying update all on Mister. That's true, absolutely. The thing is, though, and it's not difficult. I don't think it's difficult, but some people like the initial setup of Mister is not as simple as that. It's not difficult, but you give an empty Mister with no SD card to your average person, and it's going to be hit or miss whether they're even going to be able to figure it out. And it's not complicated, but it's not like so straightforward that like some guy who just wants to play some arcade games is going to be able to just get it working straight away. So you really have to keep that in mind. That's why it's good that there's so many options out there. There is kind of things to fit everybody. The only problem, I guess, is like you're saying, is the availability for like the more plug and play or even like console based stuff. It's lower. Like you don't. There's a lot of games that are forgotten that you won't see that way, and that's a shame. And there's no easy answer to that, unfortunately.
Oh, I had a mission. I had a dream that all CPS would have been available on it. It didn't work out. So, but maybe one day it will happen. I mean, we've seen recently an amazing release from Capcom with the arcade stadium.
Well,
that's accessible.
I would say, in theory, it's an amazing release, but the actual quality of the implementation it's okay. It's good enough, but it's not great. There's a lot of weird scaling issues and some other problems with it. That is a little bit disappointing, and that's unfortunate that that's still happening. I must say, but it varies from from system to system. Depends on who's doing the emulation as well. I will say I've been pretty
I mean,
impressed with the Neo Geo Pocket Color stuff coming out. I mean, I just modded my real Neo Geo Pocket Color, but a lot of people don't have access to that at all. And the stuff on Switch is really nicely implemented.
Yes. Yes, that's a good. They've got a super partnership, haven't they? They release a lot.
The thing
On
about
Switch.
the Neo Geo Pocket stuff on Switch is that it's actually a handheld system, even though it's huge comparatively.
Yeah.
So you still get a feeling of playing, because those games, they are a little bit weird to play on a big screen. Because the pixel res on it's slow.
Well, I played a Game Boy game on a 70-inch TV, and I was like, man, this is not how to do this.
No, it's really not. So,
but you know, other media categories have got it better. Music's got it right with the digital catalogs that you can get properly from iOS, and then look at film and TV. I mean, okay, it started to segment with all.
yeah, it's
Netflix,
getting worse. That's the problem.
I keep seeing memes on Reddit where people used to torrent 5-10 years ago. Netflix came in. Wow, this is the answer. Now it's Netflix, Amazon, Disney, and then the next one is back to torrent.
Dude, see, that's the problem right now. Especially like Netflix is pretty accessible, but a lot of these services, like they put out stuff that I'd like to see, but then it never shows up in the German region, and they do all kinds of IP blocking stuff. Even with VPNs and such, it can be tricky sometimes to get certain access to certain things, and it's really annoying, I think, especially for somebody that's from a region that moved to a different region. And it's like suddenly you lose access to the stuff. It's like, I don't want to watch this stuff in German. You know, it's not all that way.
Region locking has always been pants.
Dude, there is stuff. There's stuff like Amazon is the worst. The Prime Video stuff, you get on there and it's like, oh, okay, everything's dubbed in German. And like, there's a lot of movies on there that don't actually have the English language track available. And I'm just like, I don't want to watch it like this. This is bad. I'm sorry. I know the German dubbing industry is huge, and they do some pretty good dub work, but I'm not into dubs at all.
So I see Zach Fowley sent 2 super chats. I'm guessing one of them,
cool.
Because one of them didn't have a message, but thank you for both, I guess. Have any of you tried the MVSX arcade one-up debating on one of those, or just buying and restoring an actual MVS?
So I have tried the MVSX. It's pretty good, but there's, in its current form, it has a weird issue with stuttering, where like scrolling, there's like little micro hitches in it, and they've not been able to fix that. And then I also tried, I forget what it's called, but somebody did a pack for it where you could essentially load it up with like all Neo Geo games, and that also has its own performance issues. So I haven't found a way to completely fix that. So it's like, it's interesting, it's well built, and it's cool. It has its own screen, but it's not perfect.
That's the tabletop.
Yeah, it's the tabletop unit. Yeah, it's really nice looking, and there's a lot of good stuff, but it's just not implemented as well as I would have liked, which is disappointing.
Very expensive to make and distribute items like that as well. Wow,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Ginormous unit like that.
Something that big, that's just insane.
Yeah.
But I think, what do you guys say? I'm getting kind of tired here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Feeling like
I would say maybe it's time to call the night here in Europe right now. It is for us at least. It is almost 10:30.
It has been a long day, especially I know it was pretty long for you. You were having export issues. Welcome to our world.
Learning the ropes of joining the F and exporting issues is apparently very much part of it. So
Adobe Premiere, baby. It's good when it can be good, but
I was watching the results of I edited the F Weekly that we recorded, and I think this episode is probably our best so far. So do
gonna
look
be
forward
very,
to
very
it
funny.
once it does export.
It's interesting and funny. There's a bit
It's
of both.
It is both, and yeah, it is a treat visually and you know,
Definitely. But
So-
I would say thank you for joining us, Ben. It's always nice to have somebody from the inside come on and talk this stuff. It was a lot of fun to have you.
And
Pleasure.
you mentioned several times forums and such, but where is it that people can go if they want to talk to you about the SCHA?
It's just the Capcom Home Arcade Reddit forum. That's the main place, the only place that keep going. So any questions, any problems, just post or DM me. I'm the community manager there, so just get on and send it over.
Cool.
Thanks
That
a lot
sounds
for
good.
having me on, by the way. Thanks a lot for having the interest.
Oh, it's
in it.
great.
Oh yeah, it's fun. I always enjoy
We've
this.
been wanting to have you on because we spend a lot of time just discussing games via emails and stuff. Not business or anything, but just discussing the games we like playing. So we kind of want to just chat and have fun. So we all need that
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
So I guess that's gonna do it for then. So thank you. Obviously, we said thanks, Ben. Thank you, Audi, for being the wingman as always. It's always a pleasure.
Bye.
Of course.
And thank you to everybody in the chat and watching over there. And thank you for that final super chat, which is just a good night, Andy Lond.
From Norway.
Wow, that's great. Lots of people from Norway in here tonight.
I'm
That's
bringing
cool.
the big audience to the channel too. Two people.
Oh man, that's great.
One of them might be my mother.
Oh boy. All right, and if you missed it, definitely go check it out. We played AVP first and kind of went through them all, but that's gonna do it for us. Look out for the DF Direct on Monday. Other stuff maybe this weekend. I actually don't know what's lined up. I'm working
And
on
the Patreon.
Oh yeah, got to mention the Patreon. That's cool. Yeah, we're gonna be revamping that soon, but the community's been pretty cool.
And we have been doing almost daily posts on the Patreon now with new content. So if you're on the fence, there will be a huge revamp very soon. But we have already started putting exclusive content up on the Patreon.
Definitely, we're trying to make that better. But anyway, we'll talk to you guys next stream. We'll see you in other videos, all that good stuff. Have a good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you guys are, and we'll see you.